Hi everyone, it's about 3 o'clock, so let's get started with our webinar. My name is Patty with Simplex-IT, and we should be here today to talk about Microsoft Teams. If I've muted the microphones just to kind of cut down on some of the background noise, so if you have any questions, please just type them in the chat window. You should be able to unmute yourself as well, or just type in, that you want to be unmuted and I'll unmute you if you want to talk, or just type your question. But today's purpose of the webinar is to just kind of go over Microsoft Teams, show you a little bit about it and what you can do with it. And if somebody could please just type in the chat window and let me know that you can hear me. Sometimes I just go on and and I've lost audio. So I see somebody is typing, so thank you very much. Hopefully you can hear me. I just wanted to real quick put up some of the services from Simplex-IT. I see a lot of familiar names out there, and that's great. But one of the things I wanted to draw attention to is the new training offering that we have. If you're a client of ours and you haven't heard about this already, then shoot me an email and I'll talk to you offline about it. But it's really great. So what Simplex TM is basically online training, really good online training in office skills, soft skills, security training, any kind of technical topic. So those are all online recorded videos and workshops that you go along with, and they're really good. And then we're also offering instructor-led training. So if you have a group of people at your office and you want some classroom-style training or some one-on-one, we can customize the content. So if you want a little bit of OneNote, a little bit of Planner, a little bit of Outlook, we can certainly do that as well. So I just like to mention that on the webinars in case you're interested in any of the training, since this is kind of like a little training. So if you are, just shoot me an email. You can also go to, I don't think it's on the slide, but you can also go to our website under training, and there's a free offer for a Windows 10 class. So you can not only learn all about Windows 10, but you can kind of test drive the training and see how it is. So I'd encourage you to take a look at that. It's just simplex-it.com. I think it's actually just /training, or when you get there, go under services and look at training, and you should see it there. So enough about that. Let's go on to the demo. So I'm going to show you our Microsoft Teams setup. So you'll see some of the dirt behind the scenes here within Simplex-IT. But this is our instance of Teams. You can see here right off the bat over on the right hand side is sort of the different modules. So just going from top to bottom, first I have activity. And this is basically all of the activity that has happened on all of the teams. So in case you have missed something. I personally don't really look at the activity that much, but if you have a lot of different concurrent team conversations going on, it might be helpful then. The chat window is for any one-on-one conversation. So if you just want to send a quick message to somebody, you can see here that Rob is sending me some messages about some marketing campaigns. Those are just the one-on-one kind of conversations that you have, very much to how Skype for Business used to be, or Slack. Under that option you have Teams, and this is where you have your sort of your channels or your rooms. Every tool calls them something different, but Microsoft calls them channels, and you can see here we've got a couple different channels set up. So we have a channel for Simplex-IT, which is basically just general stuff, very important things like general, and then Daily Dish, which is where we're going to eat, or what we're going to eat for lunch. So got to have the important things covered. And then we have one for marketing, and you can see there's a few different things for marketing here. And then we have one for some of the hiring that we're doing. So just to sort of show you around a little bit, I created, under marketing, I created a sample channel called May Webinar, just because I wanted one that didn't have anything in it, just from scratch. And I did that just by hovering over marketing and then clicking on this little ellipsis here. And if I click on that, then I get this drop-down menu where I can add a channel or add members or leave a team. But I just chose Add Channel, and then I named it May Webinar. So that's really the only thing I did before we started this webinar. So in May Webinar, the first thing I would do in real life would be to add some people to this team. So I'm not going to do that today, but if I wanted to, I could add members to the team. So here, if I want to get started, you can see a little bit down here, I can edit the channel. I'll show you connectors here in a minute. I can get a link to the channel if I want to send that to somebody, or I can delete it. And then over on the right-hand side is basically the channel that we've been talking about. So you have a couple tabs at the top. You have one called Conversations, then Files, and then Wiki. So Conversations is the majority of what we'll do. You start it down at the bottom where it says Start a New Conversation. And then just like in some of the other products that you might have seen, we just type the ampersand or the @ sign to mention somebody. And to mention somebody means you're sort of calling them out. You're calling their attention to that particular post. So sometimes you may just have a general posting like, you know, hey, I'm going to run out for a half hour, and that's just to everybody. Or if you're having a conversation with somebody, you know, say, hey, you know, at Bob, I have a question for you, and that will sort of alert him that you're, you know, you're talking to him, not just a general comment. So I'm just going to say something general here. Good afternoon. Well, no, it wouldn't be me without a typo. Good afternoon, everyone. And then you can see that that posts right above. So everybody else can see this message, and then they can click reply to this message. And if I were somebody else, I would type it below, blah, blah, blah. So you can see how the string kind of continues with that same main message. So that's really nice. Sometimes I forget and I just type in my reply down here, and that's fine. But you'll notice how it kind of starts a new conversation. So it's nice when you can keep the conversations sort of in that same channel or in that same dialogue. So here, you know, my reply looks like a new conversation, but that's okay. It's kind of fun. If you've got a fun office here, you can change the formatting of all of your text. You know, you have all the same formatting tools: bold, italicize, underline. You can highlight things. You can change the font color. You know, change the font size, bullet, number. You can throw in a link. You can do some paragraph formatting. So there's quite a bit that you can do within the text of the message. 9 times out of 10, we're just kind of chit-chatting and throwing in text and not spending a lot of time formatting it, but you can. The little exclamation point is if you want to mark it as important, and it'll sort of jump out at other people. Down at the bottom, in addition to the formatting, you can also attach documents. So I can click on the attach button. And here's some recent documents that I had worked on. So I can attach any one of these, or go find another file that I want to attach. Of course, you have your emojis. Everybody loves emojis. So you have all your emojis here that you can add to make your messages fun. You have a lot of GIFs or GIFs, depending on which side of the fence you're on with pronunciation there. So you can add one of these. These are cute guys to your messages. And then you can also use Meet Now, which is really nice. So if you're having a conversation, you're kind of going back and forth, and you're saying, you know, working on a document, let's say, sometimes it's just more efficient to meet in person. So that will actually start a video conference with whoever is in that conversation. And then the little ellipsis button here just gives you some more options. So if you wanted to add news or stocks or weather or whatnot to your page, you can do that as well. I think Kevin added weather to our general page. I'll show you that in a minute. So if I wanted to send that, I could, and it shows up just like you saw it down at the bottom. So your preview before you send it is very similar to what it looks like when it's received. What I really like about Teams, and what I have vowed to get better about, is using these tabs up at the top. So within this May webinar team, I can have my own set of files here. So I can work on my own files. I can create new files right here, or I can upload existing files if I have something on my desktop. I can get a link or add cloud storage, or even open it in my instance of SharePoint. Wiki. If you wanted to start your own wiki here within our May webinar team, you can do that. It's really a nice way to, if you're working on like a procedure guide or instructions, any kind of information that you want to be able to go back and search, you can use a wiki. I'm actually in the process of using OneNote for a procedure guide, which I'm really liking, even more so than Wiki, and I'll show you how to add that. So you'll notice you have conversations, files, and wiki up at the top, and then you have a little plus sign. So that plus sign will let you add other things. If I click on the plus sign, here I can add documents from our SharePoint site. I can add an Excel document or a form or a OneNote, or so on. So let's say that we want to add a OneNote. So I can click on OneNote. And I'm going to say I want to create a new notebook. If I had one already, I would say browse notebooks and I would go pick one that I have. But I'm going to say, no, I don't have one. I want to create one for, and it doesn't have to be the same name. I was going to name it May Webinar, but I don't want you to think that it has to be the same name. So I'm going to say notebook for May's webinar. So it doesn't have to be the same. It should be something similar, though, just so that you know which one it is if you're ever accessing it outside of Teams. You know, if you have your list of notebooks and they're all named webinars, and you won't know which one is which. So I'll name it that, and I'll click Save, and I'll think about it for a minute. And it's just generating the notebook right now for us. And like I said, you can access this notebook through Teams, or if you just, you know, had it on your desktop or had it in a SharePoint file or wherever, you can always access it directly as well. So it says this notebook is empty, which of course we just created it. So I can either click here or press enter to create a new section. So I'll click here. And then I'm going to call this section name, how about create a section for topics, and I'll click OK. So now I can expand this a little bit, and here are my topics, and I can have a page for, let's say I want a page for OneNote, and then here I could bullet list everything that I want to talk about during my OneNote webinar. So I can say, you know, Teams, chat, activity, instant messages, what have you. Okay. And then if I wanted to add another sheet to this topic, I would just expand that, go to page, and then add another one. So maybe planner. Yeah. And then here I can have new plan, new bucket, whatever my topics are that I wanted to cover. Just expand it. So you can see how you can start to build a OneNote right in Teams. Now, if you don't like this interface within OneNote, it is a little bit limited. If you use OneNote a lot, you'll notice that there's a few things missing, but it's, you know, it's good enough to get you by. You have under Insert are all the different things you can insert onto this page. Draw is where you can, you know, if you want to highlight or circle something here on the screen, or try to draw something if you're a better artist than me. And then the View tab lets you just kind of, you know, change the view that you're looking at and change a different version. So if that isn't quite enough, you know, sometimes that's good for a quick, you know, quick change. But if you want to do a lot of work, sometimes you want to just open it right in the actual program. And I do this a lot with Word and Excel and OneNote. So you do have the option up here. I'm not going to do it because it takes a second. But you do have the option up here to open it right in OneNote. And then whatever you do in OneNote or in Teams will always update each other. So there's no, you don't have to sync back and forth or anything like that. So let's take a look at some of the other options. This was OneNote. I can still go back to conversations, and you'll notice there should be a post that, yes, it says tab conversation has begun. Kind of, I'm torn on this. I like that it notifies everybody that I've started a new tab, but it doesn't give any helpful information whatsoever. So typically in real life, I would say, you know, hey everyone, I created OneNote, you know, you should have access to it, or it's called blah, blah, blah. I'll just leave it like that. But that way people know what that is. So unless they scroll down, they don't see that that's there. But you can easily just call that out, and then they can see that it's there right above it once it forces it to scroll. Let's see, in addition to that, let's click on the plus sign again. One of the other things that I like to use with Teams is Planner. So you notice that I created a tab on that notebook for Planner. So I'm just going to click on Planner, and I want to create a new plan for this team. If you're not familiar with Planner, it's basically a scaled down version of a project management tool. It's to compare it to Trello would be an overstatement. It's not quite Trello, but it's a way to sort of organize your tasks in different lists. So here I'm going to say create a new plan, and I'm going to say plan for a webinar. I'll save it. So I like to think of this as like an event. We were talking about this earlier today. We have an event coming up, and it's nice if you have a team that's going to be working on getting everything ready for the event. You can have the notebook of all of your notes and all of the materials and everything that you need for the event, and then you can have a plan. So here's my plan, here's my to-do. If I wanted to add a new bucket, so your to-do is a bucket right here of list of things you have to do. If you want to add another one, you just click on add, another one, and take your marketing if you want to market your event. So here, if I wanted to add some marketing tabs to it, I can say, I want to do some Facebook marketing, I want to do some LinkedIn, I want to do something with the Stoughton Monroe Falls Chamber of Commerce, and I can just quickly add those tabs. And then you can get a little bit more advanced with this, with setting up due dates and assigning things. I do have a Planner webinar here in the next few months. If you're interested at all in Planner, I don't want to go too far into Planner, but you can see how it's nice if you have a team for our event called May Webinar, and then you have a place to store all of the files for that webinar or event. Let's say you have a OneNote for that event, and then you have a plan for that event. If you're doing other things, like you've got everybody's accessing this Excel spreadsheet, and you're all updating it because you've got an Excel spreadsheet that controls everything for this event, you can always add that as well. I always just think that OneNote and Planner kind of go along with Teams, but they really don't. It's just however you want to use it. So I could always add an Excel workbook just as easily as I added these other two. Here I can call it, let's just say attendees. So we're keeping a list of attendees in an Excel document, let's say. Oops, did I click? I think I clicked back. Oops. So I'm going to call it attendees. And let's see. I'm going to go try to find it here. Well, if I had one at my fingertips, I would add in the Excel spreadsheet. I don't have one. It'll probably take me a minute to find one that I can share through Teams on SharePoint. So I'll just click back for now. But you can easily add Excel worksheets. And I think we talked about this in the beginning. You can do any kind of files, PDFs or wikis or what have you, team streams, PowerPoints, or any one of these. All right, so just as a quick review, we have all of our tabs over here on the left. Your activity is kind of the overview of everything that's been going on within Teams. You have your chat window, which is kind of like your one-on-one conversations with everybody. You have your teams, which are your groups of channels or rooms for different topics, and then those can have sub-channels as well. So you can see here our marketing department has several sub-channels. You have one for meetings. I don't think I touched on this earlier. I apologize. So here you can see, all of the meetings that I have for today, or if I need to schedule another one. Any files I have access to through Teams. And then if I click on the little ellipsis, you'll see a few more options, like OneNote, Planner, and the other ones. Also under Teams, the other thing I didn't mention, let's see if I can pull it up here. Nope, maybe not. I might have to be in one of the components. So let's just go back to Teams. So like I said, each one of the components over here on the right, you've got activity, chat is your one-on-one, Teams is your groups, you have your meetings, and then any files. Once you click on a channel, then you have all of the options for that channel along the top. So typically you'll be in conversations most of the time. You want to be talking back and forth to your teammates. You have your files and your wiki. If you don't want any of these, you can always remove them. So every new channel will start with conversations, files, and wiki. If you just right-click on any of them and remove, if you know you're not going to use wiki, you can just right-click and remove it. And that way it saves you some space up here at the top. Here you can see it's set to private, so I haven't opened this up to everybody. And then the only other thing I don't think I mentioned was this little ellipsis here next to the name, which is the same options. You get the same options here as what you do if you click on it over here in the list. So that's exactly the same. If you ever can't find anything, just use that big search bar at the top. And then to start a new post, you can always click up here, or to start a new chat, I should say, you can click up here at the new button. Down at the bottom, just as a review, you've got formatting the text. You can attach a document. You've got your little smileys, GIFs, and stickers. I don't think we talked about stickers either, but they're kind of the same, the same kind of fun stuff as your smileys and your GIFs. So this would work the same way. You just click on the one you want to use. So it's kind of fun, lightens the workday. All right, I see a question from Helen. Good question. She said, I found that Planner likes to populate itself in the gal to everyone. Do you know an easy way to prevent that short of running PowerShell commands? I do not know of a way of preventing that, but I will do some digging, and if I find anything, I will let you know, Helen. Thanks for asking that in the chat. All right, I think that was a pretty good overview of OneNote. If anybody has any other questions, certainly type them in the chat or let me know and I'll take you off of mute. If you have any questions after this webinar, I'll put my email address up here. Certainly shoot me an email, Patty@simplex-it.com, and I'll be more than happy to help you out. All right, thanks for joining, everyone. Bye.